Sanam, hello.
Sanam, aloha.
Hello, who's here? I think I heard Guru Ravi. Is that true?
This is Lisa Wagner.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. I'm happy to be here this morning.
Good. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And was Guru Ravi here?
I feel like, yeah, I'm going through a huge shift.
How you doing, Siri Gian?
Is this Lisa?
Yes.
Oh, good. Well, go through the shift with us. Let's find out who else is on the phone. Hargoben's here, and who else is here?
Hari Inder is here.
Oh, hi, Hari Inder. I've been missing you. How are you?
I know. I wanted to come to the Yogi Mela, but I broke my arm, my wrist in 3 places.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, and
when?
I'm in a. I bought it 3 weeks ago, but
oh my God!
And I have to be in the cast for another 8 weeks, and then.
Oh my God!
I know.
Can you come anyway?
I would love to come. I can't do anything with my arm. It's like hanging on my shoulder.
Well, that's okay. That's okay.
I need people to help me with myself, with my hair, and all kinds of things. And just anyway, it's a small challenge, but I need a hard breath.
Oh, okay, we're giving you heart breath. Everybody, give her heart breath now.
Thank you.
Wish, dear, it's good to have you back. Oh, listen, you can do live streaming if you want.
I was thinking about it. I have to look into it.
Okay, so you know the pages to go through.
Right. I just cannot type. If you're going to ask me to do reports and stuff like that, I won't be able to do anything.
No, just get yourself registered and then
I can just listen. Yeah.
Okay, good. Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
And who else is here?
Kaur.m4v.
Hi, sweetie. I thought I heard you before. Glad to have you. Huh?
I didn't hear that.
I thought I heard you earlier.
Oh, okay. I didn't say anything. So.
Oh, maybe Baba Siri Chand was playing a trick on me.
I think so.
I'm finding he does that.
And this is Debbie, but I just told everyone I think I should start going by my spiritual name.
Oh, what is it?
Guru Simran Kaur.
How lovely.
Yeah,
okay, Debbie is now officially Guru Simran Kaur.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to you, dear, Guru Simran?
Well, I know the definition that they sent me is the princess who is the teacher of the constant remembrance of God.
Wow.
Not bad, girl.
Beautiful. I cried when I got that one. Yeah.
That's it. Isn't it cool to just identify yourself with this, I don't know, total conscious concept?
Yeah.
That's the best. Well, glad to have you.
Thank you, Sue.
Now, who else is here?
Suzanne.
Hi, Suzanne. How are you?
Good today.
Huh?
Real good today.
All right. Good deal. Who else is here?
Sadanam. Jagdeep.
Sadanam is here?
Yes.
Welcome. Are you doing better, Sadanam?
Progress.
All righty, progress. Sounds good. And
Jagdeep Kaur
Shakti?
from Florida. Yeah.
Did you say Shakti?
Jagdeep.
Oh, Jagdeep.
J-A-D. Yes.
Oh, glad to have you, dear. What part of Florida?
South Florida. I'm here in Fort Lauderdale right now, where I work.
Nice. Good. Glad to have you. And who else is here?
I think you heard me. This is Padam Dayan. Aloha. Good morning, Satnam.
Good. Glad to have you, sweetie.
Glad to be here.
You doing well?
There's some shifting going on, but it's okay.
Yay. Well, those shifts, they're always grabbing us.
Yeah.
Okay, and who else is here?
Tomas and Rahmani.
Tomas and Rahmani. Welcome, our rock-solid regulars. Glad to have you both.
Thanks.
Now, who else is here?
Harimander.
Oh, hi, Harimander.
Hey.
How are you?
All right.
Good. Is there still snow in Juneau?
Oh, yes. Snowed last night.
Oh, yes, that's right. It stays here a while, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, glad you're here. And who else is here? Anybody else?
Cito.
Cito. Are you hiding, Cito?
No, I don't want to interrupt anybody.
We are so glad to have you, dear. Have you had a good week after that talk last week?
I've had a great week. It's been awesome.
Oh, I'm so glad to hear it. Glad. And anybody else?
Carol. Johan from Florida.
Okay, so we have Carol from Juneau, still in the snow, and someone from Florida. Who's from Florida?
Johan Kaur.
Sohan Kaur, welcome. Is this your first time, dear?
I've been on one other call before, but I didn't speak.
Okay, and what part of Florida are you from?
Towards the South Florida.
Are you near Fort Lauderdale?
A little ways from there.
Isn't that amazing? We have at least, huh?
I go to the studio down in Fort Lauderdale, so pretty close.
Oh, do you two know each other? You and Jagdeep?
I don't think so.
Well, looks like you better look yourself up. We have at least 3 Floridians with us. Cool. No, warm. Anybody else? Okay. Well, God bless us all. And let's just begin. Bring your palms together at your heart center, if you can, and manage the phone. Long, deep breath. That's it. Long, deep breath. Attention at the brow point. That's it. Attention at the brow point. Understanding that you are really connecting with the infinity. The infinity that is not separate from you. And with the golden chain of teachers. Please bring your palms together and inhale. Long deep breath. Good. From the belly through the nose. And now begin heart breath. That is, on the exhale, feel as though the air is coming out of your heart center in the middle of your chest. Good. Let your heart open. Let yourself feel free. Good. Okay, and now send this beautiful heart breath to each other, to the community of birth. Please feel that. Please give it and receive it at the same time. Good. And now please send this precious heart energy to the transformation that humanity and all that live within this time-space frame on this earth, all of the transitions, so that we may ease through them, both personally and among all others. Good. Now inhale and exhale and welcome. And by the way, if you have background sounds such as the puppy or something, we can hear that on the phone, on the call. So you might want to mute yourself by pressing *6, and then we can't hear what's in your background. Then when it's time to talk, if you press *6 again, then we can hear you. It unmutes you. Okay. So, Babaji, he says yes. He says that was important. He says now you all are worried about earth changes. He says it's a preoccupation for many people. Many people get into, he calls it a power. People tangle themselves up. They use it to get themselves really excited, upset, guilty, worried beyond belief. He says, you can't believe what I see from here. He says it is totally important. He says, but do not worry yourself. He says the more worry you put into it, the heavier it becomes. You understand that? He says, you have a choice. You have a choice between being worried, he says, which coalesces what you might generally call the darkness or the confusion, or the unglorious aspects of the change. He says, like giving birth. Not all is nice. You know what I mean? He says, you may take the calm and kind route with knowledge that what is happening is from the will of the Father, from the will of the Mother, and with you included. And he says, what you get is this beautiful new life, like giving birth. He says, so if you concentrate on the difficult part, he says you're bound to get the difficult part. Do you understand? He says, now, if you, he calls it penetrate with light. If you ride on the light, he's showing me a roller coaster. If you ride on the roller coaster, but you have those, what do you call those, safety bar? If you have that down, you know the thing has been checked out and you are hooked in. He says, enjoy the ride. He says you will be faced with the same situations or what you might call obstacles either way. Doesn't matter. Depends upon how you want to arrange your environment. In other words, your environment is the state of your own mind, the state of your own consciousness. He says that, my dears, is up to you. It is up to you and your willpower. He says, of course, you've been given free will. And you have free will to either get caught up, snared up in the octopus of black ink and worry and so on, or you have the free will to ride on the consciousness of light, of genuine prosperity, of kindness, of the hologram of the universe that you have entirely always prayed for and always projected for. He says the choice is yours. He says once you make that choice, he says it may be, he says a catastrophe might be in working with your own mind. He says that's the biggest thing, working with your own mind. He says, but that's the reason why this changeover is such a big deal, because you get to change your own mind. He says only by light beings such as you, changing your own mind, thereby changing your own conscious vibratory rate, he says that's how we pull through. That's how we pull through this great endeavor with the least difficulty. He says, so it reverberates for you primarily, but it also has an effect on others. He says, just as you may have, had difficulties in your life in which you felt burdened, he says, did you try heart breath? Did you try heart breath? He says, when you try heart breath, he says, you are rooted. He says, you are rooted. He says, in my name, what he means is the name of the Creator Creative. Okay, just what Har Simran said, Guru Simran was talking about, the presence of the name, the presence of that vibratory rate. He says, you put yourself in it when you do heart breath. When you use your free will to breathe, to go into that very spectacular soul space, to be present in soul. He says to know yourself is that, and to know your, and to put your your whole kit, he calls it. Your kit is like your suitcase, everything that you own, everything that you think you own, your whole life, your whole identity. If you put that in the bag of your, what you might call your soul, your guru, your God, he says you just switch into that next vibratory dimension. He says you give it all up. He says, I don't care whether you think you are losing your house or your hut. I don't care whether you think you are losing your family, your goods, your place on earth, your whole dimension. He says it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is when you give over. When you give over your controlling, your needing, your expecting, your worries, your fears. When you give them all to the Creator. He says, you can give them to me. I hold that presence. I will help you with that. You may give them over to Jesus. You may give them over to Mother Mary, to Guru Ram Das, to Yogi Bhajan. He says we hold that entire conscious presence. When you give over to soul, when you give those worries, those hurts, those dire responsibilities, that huge grief, when you give that over, then, my dears, he says that is when those, he calls them inflammatory responses, may subside so that we may begin the work. He says when you hold on to those precious worries, he says you can have nothing but the object of those precious worries. He says, do you understand that? Do you understand the power of the will? It may seem what our people call counterintuitive, which is really an oxymoron. He says it may seem backwards to say that when you give your free will to God's will, then your life works out in the most amazing ways, no matter what happens. He says, have you tried it? He says you use your hot breath. You use your mantra to relax into it, to flow into it, to be who you are. That is your gift as a human. He says an animal cannot do that. On the other hand, animals don't worry as much as you do. He says you must try it. This is your new being. This is your new fellowship. He says, we are approaching the time of Easter, of Passover, of, what's the sequin? The sequin is called Baisakhi. He says, this is springtime. He says, every one of those has to do with sacrifice. Sacrifice. He says all of them have to do with giving up, letting go. He says, letting go for what? He says, look at what happened. He says the raw courage brought about extreme light in all cases, brought about miracles in all cases. Do you understand that? He calls it the bloody revolution within oneself. Sir, does there have to be blood? He says, no, silly. He says, but the fights that we have with one another, the fights that we have within ourselves, the fights we have with a great, huge, cognizant awareness of the universe, he says, that is as bloody fight as you could ever imagine. Beyond the beyond. He says the fears, the worries, the needs to be better than other people, needs to be richer, needs to hold on to the fundamentals of one's life. He says even if it is holding on to the life of a child, even if it is having your bills paid. He says, I'm not putting these things down. No. What I'm asking is that you let go the fearsome ego, the fearsome aspect of you that feels as though it's duty-bound and responsible to hold all of this stuff together. He says, please drop it now. Well, he says, first recognize what it is. What is it that gives you the most fear right now? The most worry, the hugest responsibility. Just let that come up. Be aware of it. He says, do you feel it making you tight? Do you feel it gripping you? He says, feel that in your body. Isn't your body marvelous that you could feel these things? He says, just feel it. Okay, he says. Now, at the same time, holding that, on the other hand, allow your heart breath. He says, and allow the light. There is a light sphere, you might call it, a light dimension, a light domain. He says it is the presence of your soul. He says, allow that to open. Use your breath, please. And as you do that, allow that hurt. Maybe it's blame. Maybe it's super responsibility. He says, please let it all rest in the light. Be very aware that you are giving it to God's will, to God's presence, to God's creative presence, to your soul, to your very soul. He says, let me eat it for dinner. Let me have it. Keep up your heart breath so that you can let it go, so that it doesn't stay sticky with you. Let it go. And give it. He says, this is your self-sacrifice. This is your giving your head. He says, humans always want to know what's going to happen next. He says, you have a thriving business around that. He says, let it go. Let it go, because you cannot possibly imagine what's happening or how it will turn out. Let it go. Let the fearsome go into this place of dissolving into the light. Keep up the breath. Keep up the process. Good. Keep it up, please. Hard breath. Long, deep breath, exhaling from the heart center. As you give it up, consciously give up those worries, those things that make you crazy, the things that make you unstable, make you stressed, make you feel rejected, not worthy to be here on earth. Give them most kindly to this light. That is what this light wants. It is not a burden. It is such a joy for the consciousness of your soul. He says, and all my friends up here, we are all waiting. Continue. We love it so much. We are lending our love as you do this. He says he knows it's like a small child giving up their favorite toy. It's hard. He says, you may think it's funny that I liken giving up a child's favorite toy to your giving up your worry, your hurt, your concern, your fear. He says, but my dears, it is totally an accurate comparison. These are your favorite fears, your favorite worries. says, after all, who would you be without them? How would it be if you found yourself in the arms of your best beloved who took care of you all the time? This is what you're doing now. Good. Keep it up and feel the radiance now that is not outside you. It is the huge, infinitesimally huge radiance of the light of the sun of the soul that is you. Allow that to occur. Allow it to occur. Good, he says, and now be in that place of light. He says, suspending all the worries. He says, you can let those. He says, have you ever tried to get rid of a colony of ants in your house? And they just come right back and right back? He says, you can do that with these worries if you want to. He says, if you are not vigilant in continuing to move the roots of these situations into this perpetual, beautiful light, he says, into my larder basket, he says, if you don't continue to do that, if you don't develop, he says, if you don't develop that part of your mind and your awareness, he says, you can take these things back anytime you want. It's called free will. He says, now leave it in this consciousness. If you truly, truly want freedom, freedom inside and out, if you would like to live the miraculous flow, if you truly want to do this and not just give lip service to it or count yourself as a victim because nobody's helping you, he says, just allow it to happen. Allow it to happen. Okay, good. He says, and now just jump into that light and be that light. Be that light. Just feel it. And now, my sweet ones, he says, now it is up to you. He says, he's giving me another amusement park ride. He said, it's kind of like being on one of those cars, that's in kind of a train. Like not exactly the Tunnel of Love. He's showing me the Disney thing. It's something world. Anyway, that's a very sweet ride. He says, you just get in that car, in that train, and you move along the tracks, and just look at what happens. All you do is you do your heart breath, you do your mantra. He says strong sadhana is very important as well. That's your daily spiritual practice. He says, you understand that? So that you can hold this delicious dimension, this whole delicious space. He says, and then you make a habit of watching what happens. You give it over. You give it over to soul, and then over time you watch what happens. It's a journey of forgiving, he says, forgiving yourself, forgiving others, forgiving the whole smushy mess understanding that it's all in the divine plan and that every instance is simply a wonder for you, in that every instance is a great opportunity for you to give over, to let go of your favorite toy of worry. He says, this is your business. This is the greatness of humanhood, and the ability of the human. He said, maybe nobody ever told you this. He says, but I'm telling you now. This is who you are, where you're going. He says, so take advantage of it. Why fight it anymore? Why fight it? Keep up the heart breath and feel the blessing. Feel the blessing. He says this is not dodging your responsibilities. He is saying this is putting your responsibility, the fulfillment of your responsibility, on the highest level. Your ego level does not have the capacity to deal with these worries. You understand that? Your ego level does not have the capacity to effectively deal with these worries. So you are turning them over. You are turning them over. He says we're a company here. You are turning them over to the company that has the equipment, has the expertise, and will carefully, powerfully, kindly, wisely take care of it all. Okay. It's just that is the process. That is the process. Take your problem to the highest and let it be worked out there and watch what happens. He says it's always a good thing to keep a notebook so that you can really understand what happens, because he says the rerouting of these directions of what you might call karma or projections or whatever, he says the rerouting is so gentle. He said it is so seamless. It is so without turmoil that you just can't believe that it is the miracle you have been waiting for. He says it just seems as though all just is flowing along. He says, so you just watch. Maintain your heart breath. Maintain your mantra. Keep up the breath. He says, and now listen. He says, you've done very good work. He says, now listen. He says, there is a message for each and every one of you in this process. Listen, please. Okay, and write it down. Did you write it down? Good. Okay. He says, now this is ongoing, you know. Don't just quit this phone call and then quit this operation. He says, no, this is your operation for the rest of your life. Okay, so he says, who is going to share first?
Ranjit, I could share.
Yes, dear.
Hi. My favorite line today was, "Worry is our favorite toy." That cracked me up.
That was mine, too.
No, look, that is so true. And what popped into my head real quick with that was Jonathan Swift's book, Gulliver's Travels. And one of the islands that he goes on to is run by horses. And the people that are there, they call them yahoos. And when Jonathan, when he comes on, he's trying to prove to the horses why man is so far advanced from animals. And the horse just can't buy it. You know, he just can't buy it. He's trying to set himself apart from, you know, one of the things was worry and fear. And so he talked about how we trained horses, but how, you know, like we beat them into submission and, you know, to do the work that we wanted them to do. And it was very interesting because when we were doing the heart breath, I was thinking, wow, you know, Jonathan Swift was really right on the money with so many of the things. I know just this one little thing I'm telling you is not, you know, is not really even the gist of it all. It was just that one part that popped into my head about the worry. But just that whole thing, how we think that we try to set ourselves apart most of the times from other things with how we do things. And I don't know, that was just very eye-opening for me today, and I realize how worry is a toy, and how we pick it up and put it down and try to surrender it, but then we pick it up again, and it was so good for me, that analogy. I think that I think it's going to be easier to for my ego to wrap around it. So I appreciate that so much. Thank you.
Oh, good. Well, thank you so much for that story. I often relate to those Lilliputians that keep you down.
Oh, yes, yeah.
Whether they're our own little voices or somebody else's little voices, they tie us up.
Yes.
Thank you, dear.
Thank you.
And who else can share?
Lisa, I can share.
Yes, dear.
Hi. So this was very, very helpful because when I started the call, I was sitting in worry and some sadness about my relationship with my husband. And so right now I feel freed up around it. Like I just gave it to God, or just turned it over, meaning I don't have any control, and bringing light, and I just, you know, whatever will be, will be. You know, I'm willing to face every fear, every survival fear, every loss, and continue to turn it over in every moment and ask to be shown.
Oh, good. Can you do that for your whole life?
Absolutely. It's how I must stand to live. You know, it's really, you know, how I'm choosing to live consciously and in the flow.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
Good
and trusting that, thank you, that, you know, whatever is meant to be, and really turning my entire life over, every worry, every fear, and trusting that the next step will be shown and something higher will be brought if need be, you know, either with him or with somebody else or with myself. It's okay.
Yay. Now, when we get off the phone, please write all that down so that you can read it over and over to remind yourself. Okay,
cool.
Good. Thank you, dear.
You're welcome.
And who else can share?
I think I can. Again, it's Suzanne.
Yes. Suzanne, yes.
Yeah. The phrase that's been following me, I must be stubborn at this one.
Yes.
Tell the higher powers what you want, not how you want it. And
that's good.
Well, I think you have to learn it or something, because it's sure following me like a badger. Because, like, in other words, I don't need all those answers or all the responsibilities of things I have to do, don't know how to do them. So I ask, what is it that I want? And then I need to appreciate and expect and believe that the how comes. That's how the how comes. It's a blessing.
But you said something very important, dear. You said that you ask the higher powers what you need.
I think
or what you want.
What I need, and they do the how.
That's right. But most of us tell the higher powers what we want, rather than asking them, what do I need? Do you see the difference?
Oh, okay. Sorry, do it again.
Okay, usually we get really upset about, for our own stability and security, we say, I need this money to come to me in this way by this time, otherwise my whole life is going to fall apart. Okay?
Okay.
Okay, now another way to do it is saying, higher powers, soul, look, this is a situation here. This is a situation here. What do you think that it's all up to you and how to arrange this. I am here to witness, to be a partner with it, to work with it. But putting this, here's the dilemma, and the solution is up to you. Rather than saying, soul, you give it to me this way or else. Do you understand the difference?
Yeah, I like that.
It really turns your life around.
Yeah.
And then you don't have all those unanswered, quote, unanswered prayers.
Yeah.
Just because
okay.
of, you know what I mean?
I'm probably just now getting it. Oh,
I'm sure you've gotten it before, but
It's a very subtle difference.
It is. Well, it is subtle, but it turns out to be huge. It's it's like being at the crossroad, at the fork in the road.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, dear.
Satnam.
Yes.
Spadam Dion.
Dion.
How are you?
Good. You?
I'll get to that in a moment. Regarding the letting go, years ago I got this prayer through practice that is always very effective, which is, I just want to be happy, show me how, because the truth is I don't know what makes me happy day to day.
Excellent prayer.
And I let the universe show me, I let God show me, and sometimes it's the simplest of thought, the simplest of moment, but I ask to be shown how, because sometimes it's helping somebody else, and in my ego is the last thing I'm thinking about is who I'm going to help that day, but how I'm going to survive that day. So show me how is full of surprises for me. There's a lot of things I found along the way that I didn't know would make me happy until I tried them, because they showed up.
That's right.
So
the most incredible teacher. That's what we call guru or soul.
Right. And every day, what I used to make this mistake of thinking that I had to surrender and I had to know how to do it. And I learned to pray. I prayed to Guru Ram Das, the Holy Spirit, Baba Siri Chand, and Avalokiteshvara all at the same time. And I asked to help me surrender today, to show me how to trust and let go today. Because the truth is, I don't really even know how to do that. So they show me and they help me. I don't have to do it myself. I used to have this thinking. It's like people who think they have to lose weight to go to the gym. It's like I don't have to know how to surrender to come to God or to whoever I pray to. I need to just be willing and be taken there. On another note, I've been asking for a deeper opening, a deeper surrender, and lo and behold, for the last 2-3 days, I have nothing but chest pains, and I've been crying myself to sleep at night with this grief that I don't even recognize. I don't know. It doesn't have a name. It doesn't have a shape. It has stories from the past. It doesn't even. They're not even sticky to it. It's just like I try to stick a story to it, and it doesn't. It's just this grief. And I've been doing heart breath. I started doing that this morning very profoundly before class because my chest hurts so much. And about all I got is that I'm healing myself and others very profoundly or something. I don't know, but it's overwhelming, and I rather have my heart open like this and cry it out than be stifled, but it's also debilitating.
Bless you, dear. we're all going to do heart breath now, because these kinds of things are happening these days. You know, as we move into this new time, this new dimension, this old stuff cannot stay. It just filters out, and this is part of the filtering out process that we also call healing.
Yeah.
So it's a matter of humbling yourself to that process. So that's what you're doing. You are doing the best. Let's see, mantras. Mantras are incredible helps. You know that my favorite is Govinda Mukundi. For a broken heart, do you know Metta Mana Loche?
Yes.
Okay, try that.
It's funny, if I wake up and I don't even have to think of a mantra, I have music running in my head, like if I have an iPod in my brain. I'm not kidding you. They just do that. I mean, I guess I've been doing this for a long time, but I think it's also grace, Spirit trying to help me. And I do remember when I was still in Uruguay one time in one of those calls that Baba Siri Chand came through, and you mentioned that I was not imagining. I was literally doing healing through this process, because I used to think that I was imagining it, and it's no, I am helping others. I am kind of, I guess, I don't know, recycling center. I have no idea what to call it, but I am doing healing. And
well, there's a story of Guru Hargobind. He lived in the 1600s in India.
Okay.
He didn't like what Hargobind, of course, was telling the truth.
Right.
Of course, those emperors, well, anyway, they did their thing. He threw Guru Hargobind in jail, in dungeons. And, at that time it must have been pretty, pretty terrible.
Mm-hmm.
And so, there were negotiations and all this. So finally the emperor said, okay. Oh, he said, okay, Guru Hargobind, you can get out of jail. Guru Hargobind says, no, because of course he had been teaching in jail. He said, I want everybody in this jail to come out with me. Which, really put the emperor in a spot.
Right.
So the emperor finally devised this idea. He says, okay, anybody who can touch your coat as you are coming out can come out of the jail. So he thought that he had limited the number. But what our Guru Hargobind did was he unwove the threads of his coat. So some were very long and many, many threads. And by that, everybody was able to come out of the jail. You see? So when you tell me this story about how you are healing yourself and you feel that others are also being healed, that brings up that story.
Right.
Healed are their faces, and they saved many others. Those are the last lines of Japji.
Yeah, I opened one of those people who uses the Course in Miracles to open to a lesson for the day, not necessarily, and it reminded me that when I heal myself, I heal the world. That's right. And that's what you do when you do heart breath. Yes. Because we're all connected. The plight, the worry, the darkness comes when we feel that we're unconnected. So what you're doing is you are, in the throes of connecting. So I'm going to ask people not to get worried, not get upset if you go through this grief and you understand that you are being healed as well as many others. No, you just surrender and say, oh, this is what I came for. Thank you. I wanted a world that is better, and now I get to help. Okay? Yes. Okay. Yes. Thank you, dear. Thank you, Mahalo. Now, who else can share? We have just a couple more minutes.
Siri Gian?
Yes, Rapmani.
Tomas wishes to share.
Oh, good, Tomas. Please go ahead.
This poem is called Ripening Fruit. I give up. I just surrender and release any hindrance to acceptance of existence as it is. Self-deception is no friend of mine, and real wealth is seldom known. I am creating my own world while swirling on the end of a pen. My inner system for disseminating sacred news is incessantly remembering to pick and choose. The thick of life sometimes gets too thin and sends me on a search for ripening fruit. The tree of wholesome gifts grows before my widened eyes as love becomes fuller every day. After all is said and done, laughter has much fun, pulling one away from excess pain.
How wonderful, dear. How wonderful. And of course, your poems are always wonderful and always just right, hit the spot. And of course, they are all things that you have learned firsthand. You know, sometimes you hear people talking or read their writing and you go, oh, they made this up in their head. No, that's not what your writing is. It's what you learn firsthand, what you know about the human heart. Thank you so much for that beautiful surrender. We appreciate it.
I would also add that when these poems come through Tomas, it's really soul downloading through him because he goes into an altered state. And
oh, really? How wonderful.
Yeah, it's delivered. It's like the living word, and he's the scribe, and he knows when he's on the track, and he will not lift his pen off the paper. Even if his hand is shaking, everything's shaking, his eyes are focused on the paper, and he stays with the concentration until the delivery is done. And then he's all rosy and luminous and exhausted.
Oh, that's so fabulous.
Yeah,
and that's how our lessons come, yes?
Yeah.
How beautiful.
I'd also like to share that yesterday I got an email from a spiritual sister in Hawaii that this whole area of the main island that has 20 intentional communities on it is being threatened by corporations who want to do some extraction that will involve fracking and perhaps making the whole area inhabitable and worthless. And boy, I really swung down into feeling the pain of this possible destruction, but feeling like I didn't want to be part of the problem by adding to the problem with my pain and my grief at visualizing what could happen, and want to support these beautiful, beautiful people that do a lot of mantra and a lot of ritual dance, and they're just great, and thinking how, what can I offer to this situation? And so when we were going through the process of handing the situation over and then asking for soul to direct, what I got was let soul guide the responses. And so what I just want to put this out for confirmation is that the people that, for instance, are acting on the legal level are doing great work as long as they're being guided by soul. So when we were guided to give it over and then watch, it doesn't mean in any way not to be proactive, but to have the proaction be guided by spirit. And it reminded me of that movie, What the Bleep Do We Know, where they're playing basketball and they throw the ball up, and all of a sudden the perspective changes. So the ball comes down and the game goes on, but the directive shifts from an angst-guided, I've got to make this happen, into letting soul guide it and being the hands and the feet and the minds and the eyes and the ears of soul in human form, right?
You got it, girl, and I'm so glad you made that distinction. That's wonderful. Right, you just don't sit on the sidelines because that stops everything. But you participate as you're guided and allow things to happen. Watch what happens and participate in humbly participate participate in that flow. Good.
Yes,
I'm
and
glad
I'll
you said that.
email my friend about listening into this talk, and I invite everyone to join in heart breath for these beautiful people whose whole environment, it's just a gorgeous, magical place. This whole environment is being threatened, and so for us to all join in this circle of love there, of these people coming together to let soul guide the most beautiful outpicturing of what is in the highest interest of the universal greatness.
Okay, let's do that now.
It's in the Gila area of the Big Island in Hawaii.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good. Inhale and exhale. Good. And breathe. He says that they are the guardians. They are the guardians. Good. Okay. Thank you so much. And we appreciate, we love this beautiful collection of souls that we are. We are all so incredibly connected beyond any recognition that we could have. So God bless you all. Sit straight, palms together if you can. Really relishing the blessing of us all being together. And inhale. May the long time sun shine upon you. All love surround you. And the pure light within you guide your way on. Guide your way on. Guide your way on. Inhale. And bow to your kindness, your innocence, your flow with soul. Bless you all. Talk to you soon.
Aloha. Thank you. Mahalo. Aloha.
Bless you. Sat Nam.
Nam.